All right. We are starting, we're kind of starting a new area here, and we're going to look at a couple of different disorders. Now, one of the things that, when we study Psychology 101, we learn a lot about ourselves, we learn a lot about other people, and we learn about the interactions, the interpersonal with ourselves, we learn about the interactions we have with others. Well, the thing about taking Psychology 202 is we look at, it's abnormal psychology, but we look at how the brain works, we look at what the different things are that cause us to be quote-unquote abnormal. But as we study Psychology 202, we got to look and we got to say, okay, there are some areas here where even though we don't have this abnormal disorder, some areas that we all experience sometimes in life, whether short periods or long periods or whatever. But we're going to talk about anxiety. And so once again, remember, to have an abnormal psychological disorder, we have to have the symptoms for 30 consecutive days. So that's a long time. So imagine, anything for 30 consecutive days, and you have those symptoms every day, it's pretty big. But we're going to talk about this in terms of abnormal psychology, and we'll do good there. But I want you to realize that it's just like with depression, anxiety, a lot of different things that we talk about. We may experience times of those in our life, so it helps us to understand what causes them. So let's talk first of all about anxiety, okay? And so we're going to talk about anxiety disorders, but once again, what I'm trying to say is I want you to think sometimes you're going to have some anxiety in your life. And when you have that anxiety, let's think about what causes it, what triggers it, and how to deal with it, and what we need to do. So here's the deal, okay? So first of all, an anxiety disorder is a feeling of overwhelming tension, apprehension, or fear when there is actually no danger, okay? So in order to have an anxiety disorder, we have to have this overwhelming tension, apprehension, or fear, and then we'll talk about some of the different physiological effects. But here's the key thing. The key thing that says when there is actually no danger. There's actually nothing that's preventing a danger to us. It's kind of like if we had a danger, if we were going to be chased by a bear, then our adrenaline would go, our brain would go really fast, and we would experience these things. But the problem with anxiety is we deal with something that actually really is not endangering us, and in our mind, we make it to where it's a point that we almost feel like we're, in abnormal psychology, we feel like we are endangered. I need to be careful because I'm trying to talk about on your normal everyday life too. But you have things where you really dread, things that almost seem like there's a fear when there's really not. So that's anxiety. That's defining anxiety. So let's look at there's a couple different things to look at. Let's look at what happens when we have, I almost got ahead of myself there a little bit. But what are the physiological symptoms of anxiety? Well, anxiety is heart rate increases, blood pressure increases, the brain begins to go really fast, and why is that? Why is that? Because the body is feeling the anxiety. The brain is telling the body that we have something that we need to fear. We have a real danger here, okay? So the body then prepares for the same danger as if you were being chased by a bear. So once again, you have this alerted brain, like, okay, keep your head on a swivel, what's going on, what's wrong, okay? And then your heart is increased, it's ready for the fight or flight, the adrenaline begins to go, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, do I need to fight this? Do I need to run? What do I need to do? And it's almost to the point to where, in a physical way, you're preparing yourself for survival, okay? So that's the physical symptoms of anxiety, all right? Now, so what we have is the social influence of that, okay? The social influence of that is we have this emotional. So once again, the physiological increased heart rate, higher intensity of brain waves. Your brain is trying to solve problems faster. Increased pulse rate. Now, what happens is socially, okay, when we deal with this, then we're more, when we have this anxiety, then let's think about this, then we're thinking more about the situations. So as we look at this, okay, so we tend to shy away from other people, okay? So we begin to isolate ourselves more. Now why is that? When we're having anxiety, the best thing we can do is be around other people. Okay. As a matter of fact, you want to know how to beat anxiety when you're dealing with it, and that's talk about it and deal with it and be around other people and have that opportunity to interact with other people. Okay. And why does that help anxiety? That helps anxiety because then you realize that the fear that you feel is not really there. And even if you have a fear of people or whatever, then you begin to work through that fear. Why? Because you have all the other emotions that you have come into play, so you begin to get input from all the other emotions other than your brain just going, there's something wrong in the area, okay? When that happens, your brain begins to make things bigger than they really are, okay? So when you're around other people, what do? Well, we're talking to people, we're listening to people. So once again, we have visual, we have audio, we have sense of smell, we have sense of taste, and all these different things. So we get all this influx of senses from being around people and situations that our body says, okay, there's nothing here to fear. As opposed to what? Now this is the key thing. As opposed to what? Anxiety comes from the brain. So this non-fear that we have is right here. Now what might cause anxiety? It could be anything. You could be worried about your job. You could be worried about whatever. And when I mention worry is a big cause of anxiety. But once again, anxiety occurs anytime there's actually, we have this, once again, overwhelming tension, apprehension, or fear when there's actually no danger. Okay? So we kind of talked about the physiological, we kind of talked about the social. Now, there's different types of anxiety disorders. Let's move over now. I kind of crossed that bridge between talking about, what if we deal with a little anxiety? Well, let's go further. Now, if you begin to have these things, okay, which sometimes we do, and I want to say, I'm going to have to be careful here because I really need to deal with abnormal psychology. But I want to talk to you as a normal person and say you may experience a little bit of these at times. So you've got to get going. So what's the problem with anxiety? The problem with anxiety is we fear something, but there's no danger. So we've got to say to ourselves, what is it that we fear? Do we fear rejection from other people? Do we fear what people will think about us? Do we fear, those fears are real, but those fears aren't life-threatening. Those fears aren't life-threatening. And so we're kind of like, I have this incredible anxiety, fill in the blank. It might be to stand in front of somebody and talk. It might be to go talk to somebody. It might be that you're having this argument with somebody and your anxiety over it's just caused you to just go over the edge and you fear that something really bad's going to happen. So you have to say to yourself, sometimes, have you ever done this? What's the worst thing that could happen? And you go through and you just kind of develop the worst case scenario. And when the worst case scenario isn't all that bad, you're like, okay, well, I'm prepared for that. The old saying, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. That's kind of how you deal with anxiety. You're like, okay, well, what's the worst that could happen? And then you realize, in this case, the anxiety there's really nothing to fear. You're like, what will they think of me? And you're like, well, you know what? That's not enough fear for my body to go into this total anxiety. Somebody's worried about their job. They're like, wow, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job because of this and this and this, or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, you know what? That's not enough fear that my body should think that I'm in danger, okay, that I'm in danger, that my life's in danger, okay, that my life's actually in danger. I'm in danger of bodily harm here, okay. So that's kind of where we go. So here's different types of anxiety disorders. So the first one is panic disorders, okay. Now, once again, we're getting all this out of your book, so it's kind of neat. We kind of pull the stuff out of the book, put it in the Moodle for you, so it avoids having you. It's kind of neat. You don't have to sit and read the book, but it is kind of nice also that you know, if you want more information, to go online, look at some different things. But let's talk about panic disorders first, okay? So what is a panic attack? Okay, well, first of all, let's talk about panic disorders. People with panic disorders have one or more panic attacks and are very anxious and fearful about having future attacks. Now, what do we mean by one or more panic attacks? What's the definition for psychology? In a 30-day period, okay? So they have panic attacks where they just kind of lose it. We're going to talk about what is the psychology definition of a panic attack. You know, we might say, wow, man, I had a panic attack over that test, or I had a panic attack over this. But if you have a panic attack once every 30 days, that's part of it. But what does it say? It says that you are very anxious, okay? That you have developed anxiety and fear about having another anxiety attack, okay? Here is a true anxiety attack, or a panic attack. A person having a panic attack feels apprehension leading to intense fear. That's what we were talking about. Apprehension leading to intense fear, that there's a really bad danger that we've got to deal with. Sensation of going crazy or losing control. That's probably the worst. Somebody just feels like, man, I am flat losing it. I don't think I can even be rational on these decisions. And then the physical signs of distress: racing heartbeat, rapid breathing, dizziness, nausea, sensation of a heart attack, or imminent death. That this is going to actually cause death. All right. So, wow, that's pretty serious. So I kind of walked you out of anxiety into a panic disorder. Okay. So those are things with a panic disorder. And once you have a panic disorder, it's really bad. So you have anxiety. Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to have another panic disorder. I don't want that feeling. I don't want that feeling of feeling maybe even imminent death. Imminent meaning that's going to happen to you. Okay. So that's a panic disorder. Now let's deal with a phobia. Okay. So there's three types of anxiety disorders. There's panic disorders, there's phobias, and then we're going to talk about other anxiety disorders. So there's three types of anxiety disorders: panic disorders, phobias, and then other types of anxiety disorders. Now, a phobia, okay, it says people with phobias avoid situations that produce severe anxiety and or panic, okay? So, once again, phobias. Phobias avoid situations that produce severe anxiety. So a phobia is a fear of something that you're going to avoid. Now, there's three different types of those, okay? Let me give you those, and then we'll talk about it on the next tape, okay? So the first one is agoraphobia, agoraphobia, okay? That's fear or avoidance of situations, okay? Agoraphobia. Then we have a specific phobia. That would be where you might have a fear of spiders or a fear of something specific. And then we have social phobia, fear of being called for some kind of performance. Okay, so there's three types of phobia: agoraphobia, specific phobia, and then social phobia. And we'll pick those up on the next video.